everybody, Zach Elliott, and feel free to argue. Hopefully you're doing okay. Even if you're not doing that great, you're probably doing better than the people at Bagram. Been reading some information coming from the BBC. They did broke an important story last week. They interviewed a bunch of people that have been held at the new secret black site associated with Bagram, where the torture is continuing under the Obama administration. I guess, according to one of the people that was held there, it was called the Black Hole. It uses a lot of the, classic techniques, extremes of hot and cold, keeping the prisoners awake for days on end, sleep deprivation. Most of them were harmed by soldiers at the point of capture. But, I mean, you could expect that. What you don't expect from the Obama administration, with its claims that it was getting everything under control, is that the torture would just be continuing apace. And, I commented on the reports that from Guantanamo that torture had been said to increase after the Obama administration took over. But I guess there was a part of me that wanted to believe that that was not the case, but it's becoming harder and harder. When you look at the overall pattern, when you look at the refusal to prosecute meaningfully anybody in the Bush administration for the torture regime, under the guise, that ridiculous guise of, wanting to look forward and not look back, like this would be okay, for example, with anyone else who was guilty of murder. Oh, well, yeah, I just killed this guy, but, we want to look forward, right? We don't want to think about the past where I killed this guy 3 minutes ago. And this is dangerous for, a whole host of reasons, most of which I've talked about on my channel. So I'll just kind of state the reasons without giving a whole lot of supporting information, because I kind of offered the supporting information already. But in terms of torture, it's very clear that it doesn't work. It doesn't work because the techniques which we used to torture were developed not for getting information, but to get people to say whatever. That these are not really torture techniques. These are not like interrogation techniques. They're brainwashing techniques. So maybe that's part of the solution. Maybe we need to stop calling torture even torture and call it brainwashing, except that doesn't sound as nasty. But I mean, it might get people out of the idea that we're getting useful information out of torture, that we're just programming people to say certain things that we want them to say. So, I don't know. That's an idea. People can comment on whether they think that would be a useful way to change the way that we talk about torture. The other thing that I wanted to mention, which is another thing that I've mentioned before, is that the hypocrisy of our torture position, saying that we don't torture, saying that we disapprove of torture while we engage in torture, is, according to the people who interrogate the terrorists, the #1 reason why people come from countries outside of the areas where we're operating, like Iraq and Afghanistan, to fight our troops. So the reason why a person comes from Saudi Arabia to Iraq to try to kill Americans is because of the hypocrisy of our torture policy. This is the #1 reason. And that's just straight from the mouth of someone who's actually engaged in the front lines, interrogating terrorists and people who are associated with terrorists. So I would tend to believe that person over, self-interested people with no successes in the government who support our torture regime and, its alleged necessity. So I wanted to point this out because this is just another, link in the chain. And I read an article by crazy neocon Charles Krauthammer recently. And I hate this guy, but unfortunately, I was compelled to agree with him. Because what he was doing in this article was basically saying, look, Obama can say whatever he wants about the Bush administration. He can say whatever he wants about torture. But if you look at what he does, if you look at the policies he's enacted, everything that Obama has done has basically supported the Bush torture regime. And he said something which I swear I'll never forget. He said that when a new administration elected with popular support picks up the tools of the old administration, a new legitimacy is forged. So that's what's happening right now. These techniques, which I think most Americans are against, and they should be because they are illegal, they break our laws, and they break international law. It's continuing, though. It is continuing under the Obama administration. We are continuing to torture. We're continuing to break our laws. We're continuing to break international law. We're continuing to make terrorists who will come and kill our troops, and we're not getting anything out of it. So, this is torture policy under the Obama administration. And if it looks a lot like torture policy under the Bush administration, well, I would say that's because it is. But of course, you can certainly always feel free to argue. This has been Zach Elliott. Take care, everyone.